be with you shortly.
And Javier, I've started the recording.
All right, thank you.
Actually, Javier, I don't think the webinar has started yet. So let me go ahead and click start, and then attendees will be joining.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Started.
Hey everyone, welcome. We'll get started in just a few minutes, give some people some more chance to show up, but thanks for your patience and we'll get going shortly.
I bet you're wondering how I knew about your message sent at 2:30, with urgent needs and questions to explore. Between the lines, you're asking for more. It took me by surprise, I must say, when I found your email yesterday. I heard it through the inbox. You needed help and sought a prompt reply. Oh, I heard it through the inbox, and I'm here to assist. Let's clarify, honey, honey, yeah. Count it, yeah. You know that we're committed to providing support that's tailored for you. You reached out and told me yourself. Now let's work together to ensure your health. Yes, I heard it through the inbox. Your concerns are ours, we'll stand by your side. Oh, I heard it through the inbox. Let's address your needs and turn the tide. Honey, honey, yeah. People say believe half of what you see, son, and none of what you hear. But your words came through loud and clear. Rest assured we were always near to guide you through and ease your mind. Our support is the steadfast kind, 'cause I heard it through the inbox. Together we'll find solutions, you and I. Oh, I heard it through the inbox, with dedication that will never die. Honey, honey, yeah. Adios.
All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our session today. My name is Javier Robolino and I lead most of our community and developer relations initiatives here at Front. So we appreciate the time you're taking to join our workshop and we hope that you get a lot out of it. So please feel free at any point during this session to raise your hand in Zoom or type questions into the Q&A as we go along. We have some colleagues looking at those questions, so we can interrupt the session at any point and answer your questions, or we can save them till the end, just depending on the question. But please feel free to let us know if there's any confusion or anything you want clarified as we go along. So today we're going to explore Front Connectors, which is our no-code framework that lets you integrate easily with any external system like your CRM, your project management tools, custom databases, really just any system that has an API. So with connectors, what you can do is bring in data from those external systems directly into your Front conversations, and you can also take actions in those systems without leaving your inbox, with absolutely no coding or developer resources required. You might have to learn a little bit about APIs, but there's a lot of documentation for that. We also have resources we've created that can help you with that aside from this workshop. So we'll link those out to you via email after. But we're excited today to introduce you to the Salesforce connector. We've launched a library of pre-configured connectors, so you don't have to actually do the more technical configuration. You can just start dumping them directly into your workflows and integrating them there. And we also have connectors that we've released for HubSpot, Jira, Asana, and Pipedrive. So this will make it even easier for you to get started with these connectors. And like I mentioned, these connectors give you instant access to the full functionality of every service's API. So you can update records, check the status of something in your external system, create a task, and much more, just whatever's available in that API. And all of this you can integrate directly into your rules, your macros, and your chatbot flows in front. So yeah, without any further ado, I'd like to start today's workshop, and we'll go through a real world connector workflow that enables your front teammates to update any property on a Salesforce object by simply running a macro in front. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that might work. So give me 1 second. All right, so here we have the front inbox that you may be familiar with. And in this little demo account, I've created a macro called update Salesforce property. And this is what we're going to go through today. Essentially, this connector is, this macro is powered by one of our new Salesforce connectors that we released. So in this first screen, when we're looking at trying to update a Salesforce object property, the flow is going to look like entering a Salesforce object name and then selecting the property you want to update and providing that new value. So I think this is a very general use case that you can adapt for your real world applications. And in this first screen, you can enter in any Salesforce object name, such as an account, a contact, or a custom object if you have a custom object. So let's start off with just an account, for example. I'm going to click next. And the Salesforce connector is going to run behind the scenes, pull the Salesforce API, and look at anything that matches accounts in your Salesforce instance. So in our demo instance, here are some of our accounts. So I can select Edge Communications, for example, and this corresponds to this Edge Communications account that we have in our demo instance. So you'll see this is all tied between Salesforce and front. So I'll click next, and then I'll select the property that I want to update. So again, the Salesforce connector is going to run in the background. It's going to look at that particular account and say what properties are available. So we've got all these properties. You see there's quite a lot, and you might see some custom properties if you configured them. So for now, for demonstration, I'm just going to change the account name. And so in this next final input capture screen, it's going to ask what name do you want. Let's change it to Edgy Communications for now, and click next. And so that will run, and then it'll tell me that the account name was changed to Edgy Communications. And if we go back into Salesforce and refresh, we should see that change in there. So again, this doesn't require any code on your end. This is just something you can throw into your workflows, and the connection between Salesforce and front will just work behind the scenes. So to demonstrate that again, when we update a Salesforce property, let's try contacts this time. So I'm going to type in contact and click next. And now the properties or the objects that come back are going to be different. These are contacts. For example, we've got Mr. Jack Rogers here, and he corresponds to this particular contact that we have. We can see that his department is in sales here. So what we're going to do is maybe change his department. So the fields here are all going to be particular to a contact, not an account this time. So we find the department property and click next. We can change this to, let's say he's in operations. So that will run, and similar to last time, if you refresh Salesforce and we click at the details, we'll now see that the department is listed as operations. So that's the general pattern. You can adapt this, customize this macro to suit your needs, but you can see its power to connect to external systems easily. And so we'll walk through what it takes to get to this working point. The first thing you're going to want to do is go to your settings and click on company, and then you want to go to the App Store. So what you want to look for here is Salesforce, and click on that app. And chances are you might have already enabled this, or maybe your company already enabled this. You do have to have a company admin permission to enable it. So if you don't have that permission, ask your company admin. But so it might be enabled for you, and you don't have to do anything in that case. You already have access to all these connectors. But if you do need to enable it, you'll see an enable button up at the top right. And when that happens, you'll be prompted to configure some settings for the Salesforce connection. The one that's important to these connectors is that you have an account that you're authorized with. You can see one of our colleagues, Wenji, is authorized down here. If you're not authorized and it prompts you to sign in, go ahead and sign in with a Salesforce account. And then you'll have that connection ready between the connector, between Front and Salesforce. And the next step you want to do on the App Store page is go to your settings. And in your settings, you'll see an ability to configure a subdomain. And if you're trying to follow along, don't worry, we'll have a recording of this later, so you don't have to rush and try to follow along if you haven't done this. But essentially on this page, the subdomain is the unique part of the Salesforce URL that you connect to. It's usually something that has your company name in it. This is our test instance here. If you don't know what this value is, ask your Salesforce administrator and they'll surely know. So that's the second part that you need to configure and save. But once you're set up here on the App Store, then you're good to go. You'll be able to access front connectors for Salesforce in any one of your workflows. Again, that's rules, macros, or chatbots. So
Javier, we have a
yes,
quick question, so
yeah.
it might be relevant right now from Megan. It says, can we update custom fields? My assumption is yes, since we have access to the full API suite, we'd be able to update a custom field directly on an object.
Yes. So when you run this macro, when you enter your object name, so that again, that could be an account, a contact, or whatever, this allows you to enter custom objects as well. So if you have a custom object you've created that's not a standard Salesforce object, you can enter it in here, whatever that is. I'm not familiar with our test instance custom objects, but then in the next step, if you also have custom properties, then they pull into here and they display here. So sorry, after in the next step, once you select the actual object you want to update, if you had custom properties in here that you had set custom fields for this particular contact, then they would display here, and you'd be able to select them and go from there. So yeah, I hope that answers the question, but for sure you can update custom resources. So getting back to the way to configure this, once you've set up the connection in the App Store, what you're going to want to do is go into your workspace settings. And for this, you'll need workspace admin permissions. But I'm going to use this Balcony Bliss demo instance that we've got and go to rules and macros. So a rule runs automatically in front, so you can certainly configure actions that take place in Salesforce automatically. For the purposes of this workshop, we're focused on macros, like we showed, where it's going to require a teammate to run the macro and a teammate to provide input on how you want to change a Salesforce property. But just know that you can power rules automatically in a more programmatic way with these connectors as well. So that's up to you to use and leverage, and it can be very powerful to set up these automatic processes that run between your external systems in front. Today we'll focus on the macro. So we'll go ahead and create a new macro and create it from scratch. So just to get started, I'm going to give this macro a name. I'm going to say Salesforce Connector Workshop for now. Example of Salesforce Connector. And you can customize macros so that they're available in certain inboxes within that workspace or only accessible to certain teammates. I'm going to leave it open for now. And then we're going to move on to the first step. So if you remember in the demo that we just demonstrated, the first step was asking the front teammate that executes your macro what object they want to update. So this is simply what you do here is click on this little plus sign. This lets you drop in different nodes. So we're going to first prompt people to select a teammate answer. So that's just going to collect input from your teammate. In this case, all we want to do is ask them to enter the object name, and that will just be an open-ended text field, so we don't need to change this. That should be good. We can click done there. And from there, we can move on to the next node that we want. In this case, we'll collect a teammate answer again, but this is the first node where the connectors will come into play. So there's a couple different ways that you'll see connectors in your workflows. So this second step here is where we've already taken an object name from the teammate, but we want to update. Sorry, this is the wrong screen. We want to let's see. I think I'm showing the wrong one, but this is oh no, this is the right one. So this is showing us the account or contact that comes back in a drop-down list, so the teammate can select the right one that they want to update. So to do that, we want to, instead of text, select a drop-down list, and we're going to power this with a connector. So this is the connector that you installed from the App Store. You'll have access to Salesforce or whatever else you install from our App Store. You can see here that when you select the app request, and the app request simply represents, it's the name of a connector that takes an action in an external system. We have app requests and we have app objects. App objects show you information in front. App requests take an action in an external system. So we've got a few in here, but we installed Salesforce, so you can go down to Salesforce and see the full list of them. So there's a lot of things in here. You can authorize payments, you can delete records, you can just route work. So there's a lot. There's 72 of these. They all correspond to actions that are made available through the Salesforce API. And you can also search. So if you knew what you were looking for, like you wanted to update a record, for example, you would be able to search for that, and everything that matches will come back. So in this case, you see the Salesforce icon and it says update record. So that comes back there. So for this particular screen, I know that what I want to do is execute a query based on what the teammate provided as an answer. So this part is a little bit more technical, but this page that I'm showing you here is the REST API documentation for Salesforce. And by reading this, and we'll share resources with you that'll make it easier to understand these types of documents. But by reading this, we know that I want to execute a SOQL query in order to find the objects that match what my teammate inputs. So if they search for an account or a contact or a custom object, this particular API endpoint is going to just perform a search and return the objects that match. So going back to front, let's look for that execute a SOQL query connector. And so we find it right there. And when we click on it, we have some inputs. And these inputs correspond to, if you want more information about them, you can go back to the Salesforce API docs. We'll provide a link to these and kind of read through here to learn, what the inputs are. But in this case, the Q represents the query. It represents what you're searching for. And it's a little bit in a technical format, kind of a database, kind of SQL format, if you know that. But these are concepts that we can help you learn and point you to resources to help you learn. But you really only need to set this up once. And the way you want to do this is say that you want to select these plus signs are just a certain syntax that they want you to use. But you want to select the name and the ID from the object that you're searching for. So in this case, the object was provided to us in the previous node as an answer. So I'm going to click the plus sign and click here, the enter the object name answer. So that represents what our teammate typed. So they might have typed contact, or they might have typed account, or whatever it is. So this query will then perform a search out to Salesforce API and find all the accounts, contacts, whatever it is that match. So I'm going to give this prompt a name that makes sense to our front teammates. So I'm going to say select the Salesforce object you want to update. Because again, they'll be presented with this list of whatever it is, the objects or whatever that they searched for. So they'll have to select the one that they're looking to update. And to provide those user-facing values, what we do is the Salesforce API will, through our connector, will return all the records that match that particular search. And what we would like to do is return the name. The name is kind of the user-facing value of what the record is called. The ID we'll use later to make an actual update through the API, but for now we can kind of disregard the ID. So we just want to provide the name. And with that, we'll click done and move on to the next step. So the next step here is going to be to select the property on that particular object that you want to update. So going back to front, we will collect another teammate answer in this case to update that property. So let's click the plus sign and collect another teammate answer. Similarly, we'll select a drop-down type for this prompt. I'm going to go ahead and give this a name that makes sense. Let's say select the property you want to update. And we're going to power it from a connector again. In this case, by going back to the API docs, we know that when you're trying to get the properties from a particular object, Salesforce provides this describe endpoint. So similarly, we have a describe connector that's available through Salesforce. You can, again, look through the list that you've got and kind of go find something that says describe in it. So here we see describe object metadata. That's the right one. You could also search for that and see the Salesforce icon and describe object metadata. So this one's similar to the one before. We want to take the object that the teammate told us they're looking for. So let's get that answer again. That's the name of the object, account, contact, or a custom object name. And it's going to return a lot of information. What we're interested in for that object are the fields that are available on it. So these are the fields that presumably our teammate wants to update. So we'll present the fields to them. And within the actual menu system, the text that we want to display to our teammates is, we have a lot of options here, but what we really care about is the label. The label represents the user-facing name of that property. In this case, you might see a name here, so that can be a little confusing. It's just sometimes how APIs work. You just need to read the docs, but a label is usually the user-facing value, and the name might be kind of more of a system ID style name that is actually used by the API, internally to make updates, but our teammates want this user-facing label. So we're going to click that. I think we've configured everything we need to for this step, so we're going to click done. And click done again. So, okay, so now we've asked our teammate to enter an object name. We've asked them to select a particular object that matches their search. And then we've asked them to select a property that they want to update. So the next step is going to be to actually ask them, well, what do you want to update it to? So this is the step that we'll be creating here. And again, might sound redundant, but we're going to collect some more teammate answers. So in this case, we'll add a prompt. And one second, we'll add a prompt here. And this prompt will just be a text prompt. So let's say enter a new value. And that's really all you would have to do. But this is a little bit odd because even though they just went through and told you what object and property they want to update, it might be nice to present that in context and tell them what they're updating. So it might be nicer to tell them what property name they're updating for what particular object. So what we want to do here is click this little plus sign and create some new dynamic variables that aren't available to us now, but we can infer from the previous inputs. So and a dynamic variable is just, if you're not familiar, It's a powerful concept we have in our workflows that allows you to essentially collect dynamic data from the objects and properties that you're manipulating in your workflow. So it can get a little it can take a little time to get used to it, but it's got a lot of power. So in this case, we're going to create a new dynamic variable, and we're looking for the property name so that they know what property they're updating. So here we have some previous teammate answers to the prompt. So they selected the property in this particular step. You can see it's got a long name, but it's called a select the property you want to update answer. But that's what we're looking for. We click that. And from here, we're going to add a step to extract the actual label from it. So this is what we're interested in, is the label. So I'm going to call this dynamic variable the property label. And I'm going to click save. And now I am going to enter it in here, property label. And so enter a new property label. So this, for example, might read as enter a new address for, and then what we want to add in is like the contact name. So maybe it might be like enter a new property value for Jack or something like that. So to do that, we follow a similar process. Let's go get a new dynamic variable, create new. And in this case, we want the Salesforce object we selected. So this represents the particular Salesforce object that came back, whether that's a particular account like Edge Communications or a particular person in the contact. So I'm going to add a step and extract their name. So I'm going to call this the Salesforce object name and click save. So I'll add it right there. So now we've got that prompt that should match this. So enter a new account name value for Edge Communications or whatever properties and objects that you're manipulating that will show dynamically through those dynamic variables in your prompt. So teammates have better context for what they're updating. And then that's it. We click done and click done. So now we've collected in this macro, we've collected everything we want. We've collected the object name that they want to update. That's just a free input text prompt. We've collected we've allowed them to select from a drop-down menu the particular object they want to update that matches what they searched for. And we've also let them select a property on that object that they want to update. And then we've told them, what do you want to update the new value to? So we're ready to make the actual update in Salesforce now. And if we go back and read the Salesforce docs, we know that there's an update a record API endpoint, and this is what allows you to update a record. So you'll see here, for example, in this case, they're demonstrating a records billing city being updated to San Francisco. And you'll see this, this type of notation. If you're not familiar with it, it's very common in APIs. It's called JSON notation. So no need to know everything about it now. Again, we have some educational materials that we can send out to you to help you understand it better as you work with it. But essentially it follows this general syntax where you've got a property name in quotation marks, followed by a colon, followed by a value you're updating in a quotation marks as well. So going back to front, we're going to go ahead and add a connector that does that. We don't need to collect a teammate answer in this case. We can just add a app request directly. Again, app requests correspond to API actions in Salesforce or whatever service you're connecting with. So you can click send app request to drop in an app request node directly, and you'll have access to all the connectors you've configured. So again, these will be connectors that come from your app store that you've installed that have been pre-built by us or a partner, or they'll also have access to connectors that someone on your team has personally configured if you have that feature where you can like create these yourself. So within Salesforce, we want to do the update record. And I think you can even search for Salesforce to make it easier. So it's like now we can just limit it to Salesforce. So update record, we want to do this one. This is the same one we just took a look at. And so for this, we have all the information that you saw previously. It's asking again for which object you're updating. This comes from your original answer to the object that your teammate searched for. And now they're actually asking for an ID. If you remember when we first manipulated this, we were looking at just the name. but the API likes to go by the ID versus the user-facing name for the object. So we're gonna go ahead and create a new dynamic variable, start off with the Salesforce object that was selected. So this is again like Edge Communications or Jack Rogers, something that was selected, and add a step to extract its ID. So I'll call this the Salesforce object ID and click save. And then I'll drop it in to this field. So that's a couple of the inputs that were required. And then if you remember what we just talked about, it's going to ask you to use this JSON format to send the actual update. So the way that looks is we'll type in these curly braces, and we'll type in basically the property here followed by the value. So this, as an example, could be the address followed by the address you're trying to update something to, uh, just an example. But since these are actually variables that come from the previous process in the macro, we're going to replace these hard-coded values with the actual values that we're looking for. So the first value we're looking for will be the property name. So we're gonna go, we have the property label, but that's the user-facing label. We want the name that the API actually is looking for. So we're gonna go select the property answer, which is this one here. Select the property you want to update. Get that teammate answer. Oh, sorry, I did this wrong. I actually need to create a new dynamic variable since that one's not available. So let me do new dynamic variable and select the property that we want to update. And then we're going to extract the name. So here's the name. I'm going to call this property name so it makes sense. Click save, and then we'll drop it there between the two quotation marks. And then for the value, it's going to be the answer that the teammate supplied in the previous node. So here we do have that variable already. It's this one here, this last one, entering new property value for the object answer. So that represents what the teammate typed in that previous node. So this one's all good to go. We can click done. And then at this point, we're actually done with this macro. You can, you see branching paths here. They represent when a request might have been successful. So you might want to do other additional actions when you update the record. In our demonstration, we just kind of put a comment, if you remember, that showed which object had been updated and what value it had been updated to. But you could do additional logic here to suit your real world use case. If the request fails, by default, it'll post a comment saying it failed, but you might also take additional branches. You can continue to just kind of branch along this macro. You can branch by condition. So if the value from the API comes back a certain way, you might do one thing. If it comes back with another value, you might do another thing. So there's a lot of power in this system. You continue to build out this flow. But essentially with this, you've got everything that we demonstrated back in our inbox. So this is all you really need to do. It's, when you're familiar with the API, you know what you're doing. This takes just, maybe 10 or 15 minutes max to set up. And then the power is yours to continue to extend this and change it out. So with that, it wraps up our example, and I'd like to just open it up for any questions that we have. We have a couple people from the team as well here to help answer questions, but would love to know your thoughts or maybe what you've done, what you've struggled with, or what didn't make sense during this presentation. So let me just find the attendee list, and from there I can see if there are any questions. Kelsey or anyone, did you see any questions during the?
Actually, a new one from Megan. She mentioned I followed along up until the app connector. Can we revisit those steps?
Specifically, you mean the very last step where we send the update record?
Do you mind taking Megan off of mute? That
Yeah,
might be easier.
Yep.
Yep, that's exactly right. I did every step on my screen along the way. It was just setting up the app connector. I missed a click or two.
Okay. All right. So this one here, right?
Yep, exactly.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah. So when you drop this node in, you want to select the update record app request. And here, what you're looking for is the object name answer. So when we click the little plus sign, it's this enter object name answer. This corresponds to the answer to the very first node that you created. So it's essentially the answer to this guy, enter object name. So that is what you would enter for S object. And then for the ID, this is something that you will have to extract through a new dynamic variable when you first encounter this screen, because this ID is not available to us directly just yet. So when we click the plus sign, we're actually going to click new dynamic variable. And we're going to start off with the second one here. So this first prompt is like the name that they typed in general for objects. So like that could be account or contact, for example. The second answer is actually like a specific account that they selected through that drop-down list. So that could be like Edge Communications or Jack Rogers. So we're going to select that one, and then we're going to add a step to extract its ID. And then you can like name this like Salesforce object ID or whatever you want. And so then you'll be able to input that ID into this second required input. Does that make sense so far?
Yep, that was the exact step I missed. Thank you.
Oh, okay, great. And then it sounds like you might have already followed along with this, but yeah, this is just to reiterate the JSON format, very common in most APIs. You would just kind of want some curly braces and some quotation marks, a colon, some more quotation marks. And both this first one we had to create as new as well. We do new dynamic variable. We select the property that they wanted to update, and we extract its name. So that's what we do for that one. And this one is directly the answer from the previous node, so it would be available to you as this one here, enter new property value. And then that's all you would do. If there's any errors in this syntax, you'll get an error from the API. Like if you put a comma here, that will show as an error because the last line in JSON should not have a comma. But if you had multiple items you were updating, you do need a comma between those items. So there's little quirks like that that you would look for. Again, it's called JSON. I'll spell it out here. JSON is the syntax that you use in these types of requests. So if you wanted to read more about that on the internet, you could, but this is how it would look. And then you should be able to have the record update. Okay. Any other questions that we've got from the group? Let me double check if there's anything in the Q&A. I don't think I see
None
anything.
currently.
Okay. And we'll share out a recording after. We'll also send some links to some of the resources that will be helpful. For example, we have an Academy educational course that takes you through everything you need to know about APIs. It's very comprehensive. It's a little technical, but it doesn't require you to know to code or anything. We've got a lot of we've seen like over half of our customers who have adopted connectors. I'd say like 60% of the people do not have engineering backgrounds, and they've learned a lot about APIs that they previously did not know. So we have a course specifically for learning about APIs. We have a lot of documentation on using the connectors and how you use them in workflows, everything we've demonstrated here. We've got a community and a community group with a lot of examples. Like we have some Stripe examples, and I'm going to continue to create videos there. So feel free to email us after if you want to see like particular use cases you're thinking about or particular systems you're trying to connect with. We can see if we can maybe create an example for those that we can share on the community. And what else? I think, yeah, we'll share email with like links to the Salesforce docs so you can see those API docs. Anything I'm forgetting, Kelsey?
No, you covered it all. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Cool. Well, I really hope that you all enjoyed this and got something out of it. I hope that your connectors uh, add a lot of value to your systems in front. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on the community or through the email that we send in a bit. Might I don't know if it'll be today, but we'll try to send it soon. And yeah, with that, if there are no more questions, I thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Javier.
You're welcome.